I'm with Benjamin Bernstein, a certified astrologer that has done over 7,000 astrology, shamanic healings, and life coaching sessions with a global clientele. He is the host of This Week in Astrology, which won Top 10 Astrology Podcast Award. This was iTunes' #1 astrology podcast for many years. He has won Best Astrologer 2013 through 2015 in Western North Carolina. He also hosts a very popular YouTube channel where his 2018 astrology forecast received over 80,000 views. Benjamin has been a lecturer and a guest speaker for many national astrology conferences and retreats. He has written forecasts for Natural Awakenings magazine, and he is the author of a shamanic astrology chapter in the book Transpersonal Astrology, Explorations at the Frontier. Benjamin has devoted himself to over 40 years of spiritual practice. He is a shamanic healer, awakening activator, and life coach, facilitating powerful healings and spiritual awakenings with individuals or in a group setting. He was certified as a shamanic minister and shamanic breathwork facilitator by Venus Rising Association for Transformation in 2015. His greatest joy is helping others access their spiritual awakenings with simple, effective invocations of healing and awakening. He currently does most of his shamanic work with Makisla, his co-shaman and beloved twin flame. Hi, Benjamin.
Hi.
I want you to know that is such an impressive bio. It was wonderful to even read, but there was a part that I left out. I wanted you to personally tell the story about how you became a healer.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, that was thanks to ayahuasca. I began working with the ayahuasca. If you don't know what that is, that's a plant spirit teacher. It's been used for thousands of years in indigenous cultures in South America. And the way I thumbnail ayahuasca is she is a multidimensional, hyper-intelligent consciousness who exists everywhere from the sacrament you consume to absolute oneness with God, because she's taken me all through those realms. So I've done to date over 175 ceremonies with ayahuasca and other plant spirit teachers. What happened though, I initially just got into ayahuasca for my own healing, and it proceeded very powerfully with that cleansing and process, and it also was moving me into deeper states of awakening. And in one ceremony, ayahuasca, actually after I had, from my ego, given up the desire to be a healer, which had arisen very quickly when I started working with it, I saw what these shamans were doing. I said, oh, I'd love to do that for people. That would be so cool. But having given it up and just relaxed into my own healing, then one ceremony she says to me, I'd like you to be a shaman. And I said, yes. And finally, it was not just an ego desire, it was an actual call from the divine. And then she started really going to work on me. And I have done shamanic training paths like the Pachacuti Mesa tradition, core shamanism is taught by Sandra Ingerman, that style, and a few other things too. But honestly, the main work has not been from a human. It's been from the plant spirit ayahuasca and a little bit from the plant spirit San Pedro, where just doing a ceremony, you are literally transformed on all levels. You are remade, you are having shamanic deaths and rebirths. It's like you're just being, after a while, I just realized, okay, I'm just God's little experiment here. Just do with me as you will. Because when you go into a ceremony of that power, you really have no choice but to relax and just let the divine power have its work with you. And she clearly wanted me to be a shaman, so I am. So it kind of just rose spontaneously and became part of what I do.
That's beautiful. It's amazing. How did you marry the two? I'm very interested in how you married astrology and your shamanic practice together.
Well, sometimes they merge in a single session and sometimes they don't. I actually wear 3 different hats. As you mentioned, I'm an astrologer, I'm a shamanic healer, I'm a life coach, and awakening activation kind of gets into the mix in the midst of all those. So the awakening practice I got was actually from ayahuasca. That was in February of 2011. I was just in the middle of a ceremony, and all of a sudden she drops into my head these incredibly simple invocations for healing and awakening that have worked like a charm for most people ever since. Now they've worked by now for thousands of people based on the feedback I've gotten. And so it very often happens in an astrology session, if the chart is talking about spiritual awakening or that's of interest to the client, then maybe as part of that, I call my work astrology plus, because it can involve, when people book astrology with me, it can also include shamanic healing or awakening or whatever. I'll do anything I do in an astrology session. So
Wow.
sometimes the most powerful experience they have is not even the astrology, it's the little bit of time we took to actually, take them into embodied awakening for the first time and have them have a conscious experience of their higher self merging with their physical body and the exquisite consciousness and ability that makes possible. So it sometimes happens that will get mixed into an astrology session. If I'm doing shamanic healing, it's always incorporated. The invocations are just a part of the format we do. and also there's something we'll be talking about today, which is shamanic astrology. I should mention there are several people out there doing shamanic astrology, and everyone's doing something different, it seems like. So one person's shamanic astrology may be very different from someone else's, just as one astrologer's techniques may be different from another astrologer's. So when I say shamanic astrology, I'm actually talking about planetary invocation, where my view of a chart is that the only things fated of significance are the natal chart itself, which is what it is, and the moving planets are going to arrive when they arrive. That's beyond our control. But I believe that what we do with them is completely a matter of free will. We can take the same exact transit and have a marvelous experience or a horrible experience, depending on the consciousness we bring to it. And shamanic astrology involves actually invoking the planet itself. Like if I've got a big Pluto transit coming on, I'm going to say, Pluto, what I would love from you is the release, the shedding of all that does not serve me. Let that be released. If there's something that's partially well and it can be transformed to be wonderful, please release the part that doesn't work and bring it to a higher, more wonderful level. And Pluto, please give me the wealth and power that will serve me. Wealth being not just money, but anything of value that I think is important. And power not being power over and dominating, but power with, where I'm just merging with the power of the divine and then working with others, for a win-win outcome, where it's not about dominating or controlling, it's about helping them find their own inner power and coming to the most powerful place that serves them. So that's an example of how you might work like with a Pluto transit.
Perfect.
Or a natal Pluto for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, since our theme is ease, flow, and abundance, what planets would you consider to be the easiest to bring those forth?
Okay, and these are not the only planets. There are subtle subtones of some planets, but to me, ease would most easily tie into either Venus or Neptune, because Venus, when she's on her high side, is harmony, flow, grace. That's pretty easeful. And I associate Neptune with the spiritual flow. For me, Neptune is the spiritual power of the divine coming through. It's also spiritual information just coming through intuitively like a waterfall. So for me, Neptune is ease. And then what was the second word? I'm sorry.
Well, no, you just hit the nail on the head. What happens when you have hard aspects and difficult transits? How do you still stay in that ease, flow, and abundance?
Well, you face the challenge and you work with it. I've worked with, as you said, over 7,000 clients, and I've seen time and again people who have like a grand cross in the natal chart with personal planets and outer planets mixed. That's super intense, and very often in their earlier years, their first 2 or 3 decades, it's a pretty challenging lifetime with a T-square like that or a grand cross. But then if they understand the high side potential of that configuration and they begin working the individual planets or points to bring them to the high side, I've seen those same people make that grand cross, which some astrologers would consider malefic and unfortunate, the most powerful, wonderful part of their chart. I've seen over and over again, the things that are initially our greatest challenge, when mastered, become our greatest strengths. Absolutely. So I say there doesn't have to be anything bad in astrology. I don't care what the aspect or planet is or how malefic some people would interpret it. There's absolutely always a high side if you understand the high side potential of the points of planets and you do the personal work needed to get there.
I so agree. I definitely agree. Okay, so you used a you talked to Jupiter here for a minute. Can you give me another example of how you would bring this in? how you bring in this energy, you know, turn it around so that we're going with the energy and not
Okay.
working against.
So I was working with a client this morning who had transiting Pluto square his moon. Okay. That almost without exception brings up a bunch of shadow work. Okay. And if someone doesn't know the phrase shadow work, which was coined by Carl Jung, it means you're working with your childhood wounds, your past life karma. Shadow work means you're getting triggered in a way that brings up challenging emotions and or challenging physical sensations. And what we're taught to do in our society is ignore it, anesthetize yourself, sweep it under the rug, don't deal with that. But if you don't, it just comes up again and again and again. So if I've got Pluto square my moon, I'm going to say, okay, it's time to do my shadow work. I'm going to get triggered. That's all there is to it. Unless I'm such an evolved being that I've already worked through all my stuff and I have nothing left. Very few of us can say that, and certainly not me.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to say is, okay, when I get triggered, I'm going to have a tool ready, a technique that I can pull out to work and clear that level. And this is probably a good moment for me to bring in my idea of the great onion of consciousness. Okay, and I'm not the only one who uses the image, but it's what came to me as the most helpful metaphor for the whole awakening and healing process. So I believe that when we're a fresh minted soul straight out of the divine, we're bliss, ecstasy, and euphoria. It's just wonderful feeling. Then we start incarnating, and in some of these incarnations, we get unhealed wounds and traumas. Every time we get one of those, it puts a little dark layer around the core, and these layers start accreting over lifetimes. And right now, the human us is on the outer layer, looking in toward the middle, and we may have some awareness of that divine coming through, but it's a fraction of what it could be, because every layer of unhealed wound or trauma that's around that core blocks the light a little bit. Okay, it's not opaque, but it's translucent. It blocks some. Okay, so that means what I interpret, anytime I get a challenging emotion or a challenging physical sensation, regardless of the details, all I really have to know is that's the outermost layer of my great onion asking to be peeled. And then what I've also learned, what ayahuasca taught me so profoundly, is my ego sucks at healing and it sucks at awakening, but the divine can do it really well. So I delegate. That's what my invocations do. I assign to my divine self all the healing and awakening stuff that needs to happen. So all I have to know is something's disharmonious. I got triggered. And to divine, I say 7 words. I say maximum healing that serves highest good, please. And then I relax and I become completely passive. I just feel breath, and the divine sends the energy in the crown. It goes right to where the trouble is. It stirs it up. It flushes it out. I actually feel heavy stuff going out my hands or my feet or my chakras. And I just sit there and breathe passively until it's done. And without exception, if I allow a cycle to run its course, I will feel more bright, ecstatic, euphoric, wonderful than I felt even before the moment I got triggered. Because every layer that falls off, there's more divine showing. I mean, it's the same divine at the core, but my human part is perceiving more of it because there's less blockage. So that simple tool has worked for, I would say, I can comfortably say thousands now, because I've had it out there for many years. So and same with awakening, maximum embodied awakening that serves highest good, please, rest in breath, let it come. And that it sounds too good to be true, but all I know is I've had hundreds of emails come back to me saying, this stuff works really well. Thank you for putting that out there.
You know, of all the aspects that you could have pulled, you pulled that one, because that is exactly what I was experiencing for the past, well, up until April. So I left in May.
Oh, wow.
That was most unpleasant, but I did have a spiritual awakening.
Oh,
And
that's worth it then.
yeah, it was, that part was great. And it left me with a lot of, intuition and being able to feel energy, which was things that I was never able to accomplish before. Wasn't even my realm of ever being able to experience that. But at the time, it was very painful. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't, even as an astrologer, I was not putting the two together that that's what was going, through me. So for you to pull that one out of your hat was just, wow, I really wish that I would have called you. Probably would have been a lot less painful. Gosh. Oh, wow. That's amazing. I'm going to use that for sure. Okay. So tell me, since we're speaking of ease, you have this is actually going to be the gift that you're going to be giving the viewers today.
Yeah.
It's a program that you're giving a free membership to, and EASE, capital EASE, stands for Embodied Awakening Support Experience. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So basically, everyone who gets on this will get a link over to the EASE page, and it has a full description of it, and you can, plug in your name and email somewhere and sign up. And that means you're going to get 2 emails a week. There will be an email the morning of each week's event saying it's happening at such and such a time, and here's how to get on by Zoom or by phone or whatever. You can do this from anywhere in the world. And then after the MP3 is posted, there will be another email that goes out. The MP3 is up. You can go listen to it now if you want to. And broadly, EASE, we've now done over 170 EASE calls. And Makisla and I normally co-host. Sometimes it's me solo, but normally it's us together. And the general format is we are sitting at our shamanic mesa when we do it, which is a cloth on the ground covered with, sacred and power objects. And we first set a huge sacred container. We call in several dozen allies from many different religions and traditions. What they all have in common is they're all of love and light. They're all for highest good of all. Once the container is set, and this container is also set for every person listening to the call, whether they're live or on a recording afterward, the divine is fully present for them in real time there, if they're on the recording or on the call. Then we normally do some kind of embodied awakening process. We do a healing process, but mostly it's just improvised. We call the calls initially divinely directed because they are. And we've learned once in a while, we'll do a specialty call that has a particular topic. Most of the time we show up and say, well, what you got for us today, divine? And Makisla and I, rather than creating the event, we're reporting it because the event unfolds spontaneously. The event is always the composite of what's needed by the people who are both on the live call and listening to the recording afterward. The divine, of course, exists beyond time and space, so it already knows everyone who's going to be on the call ever. And so, amazingly, the energy of the future listeners on recording is coming into the event in real time for us too. So what we're getting is all that simultaneously, and basically Makisla and I just observe, okay, the energy is moving now, it's doing that. So we make nothing happen. We are completely passive once the event starts. We're simply being the empathic tour guide of what's already happening. And anyone on the call is, in a sense, shaping it as much as we are. So collaboratively, all our higher selves are together making stuff happen. We're moving into interdimensions. Sometimes we blend with the consciousness of Gaia, and we might do some earth healing. I'm sure many of your listeners are aware that there's a powerful spiritual awakening happening on Earth now. We're in a major time of transition to a new density of consciousness. And sometimes work is done to support that. So it's a beautiful combo. Each person individually for their own benefit does receive healing and awakenings. And we get numerous emails back from people or reports on the call itself about the powerful experiences people are having. More than one person has said an EASE call was the most powerful spiritual experience of their whole life.
Wow.
And then sometimes amazingly, we merge as a single consciousness. I mean, you're still sitting there in your space and you are aware of your individual human, but transcending and including that, we have all merged into a single divine being at a higher level. And that single divine being is having a unified experience. Sometimes that doesn't happen, and sometimes each person is simply being given the space, and the divine in real time, again, whenever they hear the call, is giving them exactly what they need. And a lot of times people say, I listened to the same call 3 times, had a completely different experience each time. Because even though it's a recorded call, the divine allies are present in real time at that moment as you're listening to it, and they're giving you what you need at that moment. So the call is a catalyst for just whatever you need right now. And as we say on the call, what Makisla and I report as we narrate the event is simply what we're experiencing, which is what most people are experiencing. And we always say, if your experience is different, then go with what you're experiencing. Don't try to match us. You're getting your own customized thing if you're getting a different experience. So it's subtle. I mean, a lot of times there's, in typical shamanic journeys, there's power animals in the underworld and very vivid graphics, but this is a much more subtle upper world experience usually, where we're just in very subtle, blissful, ecstatic states. We're beings of light. And we often will try to describe it in metaphor because there's not much language that applies to those kind of levels. But for those who are awake enough to appreciate the subtlety of an event like that, it can be really powerful. And So basically, but down to the nuts and bolts, when they join, they get the emails, they have the opportunity to join any live call, and they also get access to the full archive, over 170 recordings here as we record this toward the end of 2018. And they can download or listen to anyone, stream it anytime. They have full access to the whole library.
That's an amazing gift. You're incredibly generous. I don't want to, I hate to ask you this, but would you guide us in a little ceremony, a little mini ceremony? Can you do that?
Sure. What's our time frame? How much time do we have to do it?
Oh, I don't know. Whatever you feel like you need. We're
Okay.
good. Whatever you feel like you need.
Okay, let's see what's being inspired. Okay, I'm getting a two-part. We'll do one that's planetary to tie into the astrology, and we'll do one that's just broad for general purpose awakening, if that's okay. And actually, what I'm being inspired to do is Pluto, and that's probably because probably the most powerful transit of 2019. I just put up my video forecast for the coming year on my site, astroshaman.com. You know, the triple conjunction of Pluto, South Node, and Saturn runs all year long in Capricorn. So this is a very intense opportunity for shadow work. It's going to be a big shadow work year for anyone who's open to it. So I think, you know, given the timing of this call, a Pluto invocation would be really appropriate because he's the most powerful of all those players. So if again, this will be, sometimes when I do healing invocation training to clients, it'll be just this is more like the trailer than the movie is what I'm saying here.
Okay.
So this is not going to be super intense, but it'll give those who want to do this a taste of what this can be, of planetary invocation. So close your eyes, and keeping them closed will serve you best to get the best experience. Take a sec to feel your whole body and your energy field. Just get your starting state so you'll be able to compare. And as I go into this with Pluto, just understand the planet exists on more than one level. I mean, it is a physical body way out in the solar system, but these planets also tie into archetypes within ourselves. So there is always a planetary archetype inside you for all the planets. So when you're talking to Pluto, you don't have to think of the planet way out there. You're talking to the Pluto archetype inside yourself, which would be the same as the Scorpio archetype. So we'll just call it Pluto to keep it simple. So rather than do a repeat after me, I'll just speak and ask that this energy, okay, let me just call Pluto first. Pluto, would you please come? Okay, there he is. So Pluto, would you deliver the following to each person hearing my voice to the greatest extent that serves highest good? Do not overdo it, but give them a good solid experience so they can feel your power and how it can help them, please. Thank you. So Pluto, please now saturate each person hearing my voice with your energy of the release of what does not serve them, what does not serve their highest good. And already I'm feeling heavy energy flowing out my fingers. So again, the release, this is sort of the equivalent of a healing invocation in the way we're using it. So Pluto, you are the Lord of death and rebirth. You excel at destroying what does not serve, or transforming that which is less than optimal into what is optimal. So for each person hearing my voice, whatever energy is in them that is now ripe for release, the release of that energy would serve the person's highest good. Please now release that energy, whether it's a physical issue, an emotional issue, a mental issue, a psychological issue, a spiritual issue, whatever it may be. Just help this person now release that to the greatest extent that serves our highest good. And again, this is a very brief, we're only going to take a few minutes here, Pluto, so just a taste, not a huge, massive experience, but just enough they can feel it. Just enough, just the most they're ready for. So you humans who are hearing my voice, just rest in passive breath awareness. So the way invocations work best in my experience is the more passive the ego is, the better they work, because your ego's not doing this. So as you simply relax and feel your breath, just feel it come in and feel it go out wherever it's easiest to feel it in your body, whether that's the nose or head or throat or chest or belly or diaphragm, whatever it is. Just feel the breath come and go on its own. No breath control, please. And also no effort, no willpower, no trying to make anything happen, no stopping anything from happening, no deliberate visualizing or imagining. Just be passive, just feel your breath and allow this powerful, transformative, healing power of Pluto to just saturate you and help release what does not serve. You don't have to know what it is that's being released. You don't have to know how it got there. It's actually better if you're not into any kind of story about it at all. You know, the less thought, the better when you're in a healing round. You can think all you want when the round is over, but during it, thought simply creates static that slows it all down. So basically, Pluto will do this for you as long as you're not trying to help yourself. No effort from the ego. Just be fully passive. Let Pluto do his job. Let him flush out what doesn't serve you. And if you feel challenging stuff, whether it's a challenging emotion, there's challenging thought, there's challenging physical sensation, just let it be there. You have to feel it to heal it on the way out. I promise it won't overwhelm you. It won't be too much. You just relax and let Pluto do his thing. So as Pluto starts to clear away what does not serve you, he can start delivering his gifts of wealth and power. Again, the larger scheme, people first think of money when they think of wealth, but I consider wealth anything of value, tangible or intangible. Wealth can be good food in the body, it can be a healthy body, it can be happiness. Wealth is anything of value. So let Pluto, as the things that don't serve you, clear away and make way for new energy. Let the wealth of that new energy come in and give you whatever serves highest good. Power, as I said earlier, is not dominating and controlling other people. And I mean, you can use Pluto that way, and it certainly is available for power over others. But my own preferred use of Pluto is just to relax and let the divine power saturate me. And the glyph of Pluto itself, the one that I use with the circle and the arc and the cross under that, looks just like a person raising arms to heaven and saying, I surrender. And I do surrender every day to the divine. I say, thy will be done. Just show my ego what to do. My ego will do it to the best of its ability. And to the degree that I make that surrender and let God's will be done through me, through my own intuitive inner guidance, then my power increases vastly beyond what a self-controlling ego could possibly receive. Because if the divine has big work for me to do, then it has to put a lot of power through to get it done. So just relax one moment longer and let whatever releasing is happening. Again, often it's felt as energy leaving the hands or the feet or out of chakra. And you may simultaneously, as space opens and clears, you may also feel that new, powerful, wonderful energy coming in from Pluto to energize you. Pluto is like a massive battery. He's got endless energy, and he can give you the juju you need for whatever you need to do. So that's probably a sufficient demonstration of a planetary. Now we can open our eyes now, that's complete. And let me just give a quick overview. I mean, that book, Transpersonal Astrology, that chapter contains everything I know about doing shamanic astrology, planetary invocation. Basically, you can take any point or planet in your chart, any setup, it can be an aspect, it can be an aspect pattern. If you understand intellectually what that's about, and you understand its high side possibility, you can call in the high side of any combination of planet, aspect pattern, any setup in the chart. You can also call in any combination of moving points, whether it's transits or secondary progressions or solar arcs, whatever it is. If you've got a major thing happening like Pluto on the moon, like you had, and you understand what the potential of that is, then you call for the high side potential. And I like to say, if you give the planets good high side things to do, they have less energy left over to do unfortunate things. Because when you have a powerful natal setup or you've got a powerful transit, that's unavoidable. Like, for example, I have a Chiron Sun conjunction in my natal chart. I'm always working with Chiron. I'm either getting my own healing done or I'm acting as a healer or mentor myself, okay? So when you got a super strong setup, it's always working. And if you're not keeping it busy on the high side or it's not there already automatically, it will only go to the low side. So Pluto square the moon, for example, could be just a lot of emotional suffering and you have no way of what to do with it. You're just suffering with no clear way of dealing with it. But once you have a tool like the technique I just gave, now you've got something you can do with it. So basically, the idea with my form of shamanic astrology, you understand intellectually first the high side potential of the setup, and then you literally ask the planets involved for the high side outcome. And then after you've made your request complete, you relax and you simply allow the energy to run while you stay passive. That's what I do. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. It makes sense.
Okay. Now, go ahead.
That was really powerful. You know, anytime I can feel energy in my hands, specifically, I know that, you know, it's working for me. I mean, I just know that, you know, if I'm not having to think about it and I start feeling my hands move, then I'm buzzing, you know, that's it.
Oh,
so it was working to, yes. Oh, thank you. Gosh, that's great. I got it first.
Yay. Okay.
That was a gift for sure. Tell me, okay, so.
Now, let me interject quickly.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Before we complete, I'd love to do the shortcut for embodied awakening. So if we can make time for that on this call, let's do like 5 minutes for that if we can.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, but if you want to ask me that question first, whatever that was, then feel free to.
Well, I think that we're kind of getting a little bit of a kind of what my question was going to be, which was obviously we're gonna be able to hook everybody up to how to get a hold of you, and this gift will certainly do that. But as if I come to you and I need your services, do you make the decision to do the astrology reading first?
No. When you go to my site, I've got an online booking calendar, and you choose Astrology Plus, or you choose just straight up shamanic healing, or you choose life coaching, you know, all of these services, you know, and then you choose the duration of the session. It's up to you. Astrology can be an hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. Okay. So basically the client's in full control of what they book. And even when we start a session like Astrology Plus, you know, if we're doing astrology and I feel like invocation would be helpful and they say, no, let's stay with astrology, then we stay with astrology.
Okay.
The client's the boss.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. I just wondered if you'd say, you know, I really feel like you'd benefit more from that, or if you direct people that, you know.
Well, sometimes normally I don't even find out about a session until it shows up on my booking calendar. The client has already read the descriptions on the site, they've made their choice, and I just get notified of what they chose. But if a client's not sure, they're certainly welcome to call and discuss, and I can certainly give a recommendation based on what I can give as the broad recommendation is, if part of what they want is a clear intellectual understanding of what's going on, then I'll always recommend Astrology Plus, because astrology excels in intellectual comprehension. If all they care about is getting the energy cleared or getting spiritually awake, then it might be more optimal just to do shamanic healing, which includes no astrology, but puts all of its attention on clearing as much heavy energy out as we can and taking that client to the highest state of divine consciousness they can get to.
Great. Okay, let's get the invocation now. I'm ready.
So before we do it, the divine likes me to give the following statement before I do the process, okay? So what we're about to do, if it works for you, will actually merge your higher self and your physical body together. Okay, it's called embodied awakening. So the higher self is called the soul, the light body, whatever, and it created your human. And when the human eventually dies, you'll just be that higher self again. Okay, but what this does is it lets them merge together into a single functioning consciousness on a daily basis. Okay, and what the ego needs to know is that it's safe, because an unawakened ego will obviously have some fear of giving over control to a light being, even if it's itself. So what your ego needs to know before we do this is, I'm going to use a car metaphor. It could be that until now your ego's been driving the car. To get embodied awakening, your ego slides to the passenger seat and your divine drives. Okay, your ego needs to know if at any point you don't like the divine's driving, you can instantly take the wheel, the divine steps out immediately with no fuss, and just like that, your ego's back in control. So I need your ego to know it's not threatened. It can jump right back into the driver's seat anytime it wants. This is an experiment, okay? And the other thing is there's 4 benefits to embodied awakening that I'm not aware you can get any other way. First is your daily flow of life has a whole lot more harmony, flow, ease, and grace. Everything you are responsible for, you do more responsibly and more joyfully. Instead of having to figure everything out in your head, you know what to do a lot more intuitively, and there's a lot more bliss in the mix. So those are the 4 common effects of embodied awakening when someone locks in. So let's just, now what we're gonna do, now again, the cycle takes a little longer. So because of our time constraint, we're just gonna do the shortcut. For some of the people on this call, it'll work for them. For others, it may not, or they may feel something. So just understand this is a shortcut. Some people may need the whole cycle. And if they join ease, you know, we have archives of the full cycle and we do it live once in a while. So there'll be a way to get to it afterward. So let me just, those are the upfront caveats, and now we can actually do it. So please only proceed with us if you would like to have the experience of embodied awakening, or if you're already there, you'd like it to go deeper. Because just a very, very brief story. When I had my first full-blown, I had some temporary awakenings before this, but in 2012, when I was doing a month-long ayahuasca dieta in the jungle, I had my full-blown real awakening where it was abiding. It didn't slip after that. And I thought I'd already, it was so blissful, so ecstatic, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Oh, yay, I'm all the way to God, woo! Little did I realize I was actually at the starting line. And every year since then, the awakening has gone deeper and deeper and more ecstatic. And so my motto now is it always gets better than this. Wow. You know, I don't care how ecstatic it is and how it's impossible to conceive it getting any better, it does. If you keep doing your practices, if you stay on the path of service and awakening, there's no end to how much more amazing it can get in ways that simply defy language. So that's the perspective. If you get an embodied awakening doing this, know that it's kindergarten compared to what's possible. It's just a starting point. So with that said, let's do it. Okay, and again, the degree to which you completely relax into passive breathing is going to determine how effective this is for you. You have to really work with this in the way I'll describe. So all the stuff I've said already is prep. So if you'd like to have embodied awakening, then just take a moment, once again, feel your entire field. You're just getting really strong here. So there will be a lot of energy transmitting to those who are ready to receive it. So I'm going to preview the invocation. It's going to be 8 words long. What we're about to say, if you're willing, is maximum embodied awakening that serves highest good, please. So you're calling in the blending of the 2 bodies, and note that serves highest good. That means you're only going to get as much as you're ready for. No one's getting overloaded by this. Your higher self is going to pay very close attention as the bodies come together. It's only going to give you as much light body awareness as you can handle. So know that you can relax fully and you'll only get what you're ready for. So if you would like to have this, now repeat after me out loud if you can, silently if you must. Maximum embodied awakening that serves highest good, please. Now let the words go. You just said that to your higher self. Now exactly the same follow-up I gave after that other thing. You're going to go passive. You're just feeling breath come and go on its own. No breath control, no effort, no trying to make anything happen, no stopping anything from happening, no deliberate visualizing or imagining. You're just passive. You're just sitting there. You're just feeling your breath. The one thing I'll add that I don't think I said earlier is about how to work with distraction. You may occasionally notice your attention's on something other than the breath. When that happens, do not fight the distraction. Do not try to change it. Let it be exactly as it is with no resistance. However, this distraction is an uninvited guest and you are not required to pay it any further attention. So what you do then is allowing it to be as it is. You relax back into your breath very gently and very persistently. And if the distraction is still there in the background, fine, no problem. There's room for both of you. Just let it be there. But you keep choosing breath. Anything other than breath awareness is a distraction in this process. And based on what I'm feeling, which again, as in ease, is a composite of everyone who's ever going to do this, there's a lot of beautiful energy working. So just relax, and if you're feeling a tingling in your body, that's what the light body feels like. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to relax in breath with possible continuing narration until I have the feeling in my own body that everyone who's going to get there has gotten there. So just the more passive you are, the better it works. Please just relax completely, be fully passive, just feel your breath. There's one additional tool that can help you go deeper. I call it the minimum effort game. We're going to discover what's the minimum effort needed even to feel your breath. Most people use a lot more effort than is needed. To test this, for a moment, drop to 0 effort. Just be. Simply exist. In that state of simply being, please notice if there is or is not breath awareness anyway. If the breath awareness is there on its own, even faintly, then 0 effort is enough for your follow-up. If you've lost the breath entirely, then add a tiny smidgen of effort. I'm talking like the touch of a feather, just barely enough effort to feel breath at all. And then rest in that tiny, tiny amount of effort. You want to make it as easy as possible. The more passive and relaxed you are, the easier it is for the divine to do this for you. The divine's doing all this in the background. The ego's job post-invocation is always simply to rest on a point of non-mental awareness. And the breath is always a fantastic choice for that. So most of the ones who are going to get there are here. We'll leave just a moment longer. Those of you, this may sound weird, even though people are doing this over a scattered amount of time, but you, if you're an embodied awakening holding space right now, is going to actually help anyone who ever watches this call to get there too. So just rest if you're there, just hold space, just relax into that beautiful feeling and know that you're helping everyone else get there too. Almost there, just a moment longer, and everyone who's going to get there on this call is going to be there. Okay. So if you're in embodied awakening, 4 things will be true right now. No mental chatter, no challenging emotion, it's peaceful, and it's effortless. The nature of embodied awakening is it simply holds itself with no effort needed from your ego. So drop once again to 0 effort to test, just be. And if in 0 effort, there's no mental chatter, no challenging emotion, and it's peaceful, then you're there. And if so, then it can be helpful to do we have just a moment for the brief follow-up that'll make it more consistent. That would be, wait a minute, I'm actually told not to do that. That's too much for the nature of the call we're on. But that follow-up can be gotten, through the ease calls. So just notice if you're there, if you're in that beautiful state, and the 4 things are true: no mental chatter, no challenging emotion, peaceful, effortless, and then open your eyes. So if you're in the state, as your eyes open now, just look around your space for a moment. We're still in the process. And notice as you visually engage with your space, am I still in embodied awakening? I see you nodding yes. Good job. So basically, let me give you the brief. Again, this is a very, can I just tell them where on the side these instructions are so they can?
Well, please. Yes, absolutely.
So what I'm going to give are instructions for the old site. We're going to put a new site up in the next few weeks. So on the old site that has the gold color scheme, go to the menu bar. The last word is resources. And the first pull down says invocations for healing and awakening. Click that. It'll take you to a page with 2 posts. The blue angel post is about the awakening invocation, and the post with the screaming man shaking his fist is about the healing stuff. On the new site, which has a beautiful mountain range on the home page, the word invocations is right there on the menu bar. Just click that. So either way, those are full written instructions. If I can just give the Cliff's Notes version, it takes about a minute. If you want to have this be your new daily normal and have a more wonderful life experience every day, then start the day with those 8 words: maximum embodied awakening that serves highest good, please. And then just be passive. I don't care if you're laying in the bed, sitting on the toilet, just the moment you think about it, just say them or think them, and then take a moment to breathe passively. A lot of people have given me feedback. It only takes them 5 or 10 seconds to pop back in. The moment you're fully in passive breath awareness, it'll pop right in. Okay, and then repeat as needed. If it lasts all day, you're good. If you find it slips at some point, mental chatter and challenging emotion come back, do the same 8 words again. If you're in a space where you can't do it out loud, there's people around, just do it mentally, think the 8 words, feel the breath a moment or two. You can totally reawaken in full view of others. They'll never even know you're doing anything. You can do a stealth invocation. So repeat as needed. The moment you notice it's gone, do it again when you go to bed, and that's how to do it. First thing in the morning, repeat as needed, do it at bed, and that simple tool can actually keep you in embodied awakening all day. Except that it'll just keep getting deeper over time. You know, and let me just note, if you do this, you're going to get triggered because your higher self is going to get excited. It'll want to peel the onion layers, right? So catalyst will come. You'll get a challenging emotion. You'll get a challenging experience in your body. Then pull out the healing invocation, maximum healing that serves highest good, please, or call Pluto. You know, either one will work. And just relax and let the stuff flush off. And if you let a round of healing complete, then that layer is peeled and you're even more awake. So my motto is the way to the light is through the darkness. It's you facing and having the divine clear each layer of your shadow material sequentially over time. That takes the awakening deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's the nutshell. Again, more information is where I said. And of course, E works very actively with us on an ongoing basis. E's functions as a virtual support group. A lot of people are on a spiritual path. They're doing it solo. They don't know other people who are in the vibe. They don't live in Asheville, North Carolina like I do, where there's a bunch of people doing it. So E's, if you don't have a local group, or in addition to your local group, E's helps to support you on your path. So
what a great tool. I just feel so great right now. I feel great. Yay. I feel like my day is just going to be so much better. So,
well, there it is from this state. I don't leave home without it.
I'm sold. I'm sold. I've got spirits on me right now. I feel great.
You look better too. You know, one thing I tell my female clients sometimes, embodied awakening is the best beauty treatment there is. Wow. I mean, you literally are more beautiful now than when we started the call. You know, your face is more luminous, and you know the face just shines, and there's actually some physical shifts in the skin that I see. Right?
Wow.
The most dramatic I ever saw was a woman who went to India and did an awakening process. She was like 70 years old. She came back. She looked 40. It was like 30 years had dropped off of her.
I believe that it does rejuvenate. I do believe it rejuvenates. And something that you said to me really stuck with me when you were talking about how you go through a spiritual awakening and then it's very intense. And then it's like, oh man, I'm even though at first it was kind of painful, you know, happening, but then you kind of like, oh, but I want it back. I want that intensity back again, you know, and it does kind of wane. So if this helps me get back to that, I would be so grateful.
Yeah, and I was in the same boat when I first started having my awakening experiences. It was in ayahuasca ceremonies. I'd awaken during the ceremony and I'm awake. I'm with my divine. I feel it. I know it. And then I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up and it was gone. I'd physically awaken the next morning. It went away. No. And that happened 2 or 3 times before I finally had the big lock-in. So know that it is possible to have a permanent awakening, at least at a base level, where you no longer lose connection with the divine. Now, deeper awakenings are always possible, unless you're one of those extraordinary humans who's gotten all the way while you're incarnate. It's pretty rare, okay? But just know that it is possible to hit a level where you don't lose the basic awakening and you've got that as your foundation, and then it can go deeper from there.
This was just an amazing call. I thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
Oh, my pleasure.
I cannot wait for these viewers to get all these juicy tidbits. You gave me so much. You were so generous. And I can't wait to start this program myself.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. So you have a beautiful day, and we will see you in ease.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.